Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing yet another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is a thriller from Australia, English language, released in the year 2019, directed by David Barker, and this film is called Pimped. So Pimped is about this woman. She goes out one evening in a very seedy sort of club, and she meets this very charming and handsome man. So this man has a friend. He quickly introduces them to this woman, and fairly soon the pair of them strike up this very interesting connection. It's not necessarily a love connection, love at first sight, but this woman is very intrigued by him because of what he's been saying. He says these very philosophical things that forces this woman to become more and more involved. But the more she gets involved, the more she realises that this man and his friend might have actually a sinister underbelly. And so as she feels herself becoming more and more closer to this man, she starts to realise that maybe she's in danger, but then again, maybe it's the man in danger. So the night spirals down into a very weird set of circumstances that I'm not going to give away. So if you want to know how this night unfolds, it's something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Pimped. This is definitely a movie I heard nothing about. This is an Australian film, which is ultimately why I wanted to see it. And I saw the trailer and I thought to myself, this definitely looks like a French noir film, or noir films in general, where it's all about atmosphere, and the atmosphere slowly engulfing the viewer and making them feel very uneasy. It's not necessarily a straight-out horror film, but it's got that very slow burn creepiness that you can't quite put your finger on, but you know that it's creeping you out. And so that's something that French noir do so well, and that's the vibe that I got from this trailer. And so the trailer will entice a lot of people to go out there and watch it, which is something I like. That's what a trailer should do. But unfortunately, after seeing Pimped, I definitely think the trailer is a lot better than the movie itself, which for reasons that I'll go into a little bit later. But I'll start with the positives, and thankfully this movie does have a positive, and the biggest positive is the world building that David Barker does. He creates an atmosphere that is very unsettling and that is very noirish, especially French noir, in that, alright, well, the way that the camera is used, the score, combined with the very surreal, dreamlike atmosphere, is something that I thought was very, very unsettling. And that unsettling quality, as the movie spirals on, you know that these two people, although they don't know each other, you know that something bad is going to happen. You know that someone is hiding something that is going to have devastating consequences. And so it's all about anticipation. And unfortunately, the anticipation doesn't really go anywhere in this film, but at least it promises that. And so I thought to myself, David Barker definitely has talent at actually creating an atmosphere. And so that was something I liked. But unfortunately, the cinematography, the atmosphere, and the production of the film is basically where the positives stop, and this is where the negatives start. Nothing really plays off the atmosphere at all, and nothing as in the characters. I thought the characters were extremely forgettable, especially the main character. She has these very cliched sort of characteristics about her. She has problems, and those problems that you've seen a million times before, and you know exactly what's going on. And so when you've got a noir film that relies on not knowing what's behind the door, once you know what's behind the door, you're one step ahead, and because you're one step ahead, it becomes very predictable, and it becomes very, very monotonous, and the monotony causes this film to go down into a very mediocre path, into a finish where I thought to myself, this movie, the atmosphere definitely deserved a better film. It deserved a better platform, because nothing really shines off it. It's basically the sole light of this film is the atmosphere, but everything else is really, really poor. So you've got these characters who have these philosophical dialogue that really doesn't seem to stick, and the impression I got from this film is the person who will use big words, but because they don't know what the big words mean, it just they come across as a tryhard. And so it's pretentious. Is that you want to seem smart, but because you don't, the words aren't really sticking and they're not making a whole lot of sense, they're just put out there to be intellectual, it doesn't come across as natural. And if you're not natural, you feel as though someone's a tryhard. And the best way I can sum this film up is that it's trying too hard to be that intellectual film. It should have been a really fun film, because the atmosphere creates that really fun quality, but then there's this dialogue that is very cringeworthy. When they start going on and on about all this stuff, I thought to myself, this is absolute wank. This is twaddle. And can we get to the point, please? And so the movie is just consumed by this unnecessarily pretentious dialogue that just becomes really cringeworthy. And I kept thinking to myself, well, is this what the movie's going to be about? And there are some disturbing moments, there are some nasty moments, but getting to those disturbing and nasty moments is the chore. And by the time you get to the good points of this film, it's already too late. You've already checked out and you don't really care what's going on. I thought the villain was not really menacing at all. I thought, alright, well, he does have some qualities about him that would suggest a psychopath, but it's just very forgettable. And the reason why these characters are so forgettable is because the dialogue is so forgettable. You need good dialogue to create good characters, to create a good platform for a story you really care about, but because you don't care at all about the story and how this story is going to unfold, I just didn't think as though the atmosphere alone could save this film. And so this is a very disappointing experience. It's an experience I wanted to love because it's Australian, but if I'm being brutally honest, and you guys know that I'm brutally honest, I just thought this was a really bad film, and it pains me to say it, because as I said, I wanted to love it. I thought the trailer looked great, but this is definitely a case of the trailer being much better than the film itself, because it tries too hard to be a smart film, whereas in reality it just needed to rein it in and, you know, kick away all the pretentious quality and just have a fun noir film. But unfortunately the fun is sucked out of it. It wants to be something that it really isn't. The self-awareness is not there, and as a result of that, I'm only going to give Pimped 1 star. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.